Our culture doesn't face an evidence problem. If evidence were the answer, they'd be convinced. It faces a people problem, a spiritual problem. Paul actually says, it's super obvious what can be known about God is plain to them because God has shown it to them. It's as obvious, as this, to adopt Paul's language into modern terms. The convention centre we're in right now is not the product of an explosion in a brick factory. The convention centre we're in right now is the product of many brilliant minds who have been educated for years and years about a lot of very complicated things, and they've all come together, and poof, the marvel of our modern arrangement of things is that we have a convention centre. How much more so are the fingerprints of God on his creation, which an infinity of human minds will never plumb the depths of? It's ridiculous. Of course it's obvious. And we read this and we go, well, it can't be that obvious. It is that obvious. I was flying in a plane the other day, beautiful sunset out the window, and I see God. I say, oh, you're so dumb. No, you're dumb. But, Paul notes three things. He says, the obvious things are the fact that there is such a thing as eternity, there is power, creative power, and there is the divine. That's seen to everyone. Paul says, for his invisible attributes, namely his eternal power and divine nature, have been clearly perceived ever since the creation of the world in the things that have been made, so they are without excuse. And never forget, and by the way, amazing story that I could tell if I had the time, but basically about the discovery of the four elements, wind, fire, water, earth, and how that so much of the thinking behind that was to try and find that animating principle behind the universe. The thing that might have been around from, eons past, got that eternal aspect. That thing that might drive the being and the change and the force of the universe, water. It could be water. It's got power in itself, waves on the beach, etc. It carves out great canyons. And it could have been here forever, who knows, air and so on. And then, of course, you get four elements. You can't have the animating principle behind the universe four times. So, thought develops and you get the Logos. And they're all talking about what the Logos is. And, of course, the great revelation of John 1 is that John says the Logos is what? It's Jesus Christ. He was in the beginning, all things were made through him. Without him was not anything made that was made. But you see this as the quest of the ages to find the qualities that Paul is describing here. And a modern example of this is a while ago, I was driving along in the car and on the radio they were having an interview with one of the scientists that was working on the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, which is that great big tunnel under the mountains of Switzerland where they're trying to fire all sorts of particles together and try and find something. And they actually articulated what it was they were trying to find before they found it. And this scientist was having this conversation, and he was saying, the thing that we're looking for is something that existed in the moments before the Big Bang. Something that was always there, And also we're looking for something that actually ignited, that infused the energy and the power into the Big Bang and made it happen and gave it the force that it requires. I'm thinking eternity, power, yep, great. He goes, and do you know what we, and the guy goes, yeah, and what is this thing? He said, oh, well, it's actually the Higgs boson, or it is actually God. And I nearly said hallelujah until he said particle. I thought, what willful blindness is that? You even call it the God particle, the thing you're searching for that animates all of existence. Paul says, look, it's obvious. It is obvious. It is not an evidence problem. But the thing that makes it even stronger, if you get to Romans 2, is people's conscience. Paul says our conscience also bears witness and is always telling us that there's something more. Hey, one more thing. I've been looking at the metrics and I've figured out something. You guys are watching the videos and not subscribing. So please help us out a great deal by hitting the like button and then hitting subscribe, hitting the bell as well so you get the notifications. It helps us out a really great deal, and you can click here to see more videos.